Is it a sign from the universe? Or is it just your imagination playing tricks on you? You feel a pull or you see something special, but then your brain screams, oh please, don't be dramatic. If you're stuck between curiosity about what this thing may be or self-doubt about what it really is, stay with me. Because the truth is that your life does send signals to you, but you don't have to have some dictionary of signs to figure out what this signal is, because the way most people think about signs is a little misguided. I'm going to show you exactly how to tell the difference between what is a real sign for you or what's just coincidence. So people look for signs in all kinds of places. A conversation that hits a nerve, or a song that shows up at the exact moment they're questioning their life, or a job posting that appears the day they were thinking about quitting, a number that keeps repeating, a dream that feels too sharp to ignore, even chance encounters, running into someone that you haven't seen in years, or hearing from them on the phone, and wondering why that moment shook something loose inside you. These are the situations where people can get confused, because they might think, is this really a meaningful sign? Or am I just desperate for direction right now? And then they replay it in their heads, hoping that the moment will somehow clarify for them. And they're like, absolutely, that's a sign, or absolutely it isn't. But when that doesn't happen, then it can just end up in this tug of war. And pretty soon you're just like, okay, forget it. Who cares whether this was really a sign or not? It's not helping me. We all tend to think that there are certain signs and that we have to learn what they are to figure out what they're saying to us. It's kind of like, well, what does that billboard mean? I'll look it up in the dictionary of science and find out. Or what does it mean if I hear from a friend that I haven't heard from in 20 years, just at the time I was thinking about them and thinking we needed to start some joint venture together? Is that really a sign I should move forward on this joint venture, or is that just me hearing from a good friend? I mean, this tug of war can be tough to be inside of, and we think somewhere there's an answer to that somewhere outside of us. But the truth is that what feels like a sign from the outside has more to do with who we are on the inside, how we're wired, the parts of our lives are already trying to change. So a moment becomes a possible sign because of the person who encounters it. This isn't about having these definite signs that are the same for everybody. We all know that we're very different in how we communicate with our intuition and how we go about our lives and how we think and how we feel. So to imagine that there's these universal signs is kind of silly in a way. Now, there are some things that can be similar. Sometimes chance encounters can be a sign, but sometimes they're not. And it really depends on who the person is that's experiencing it and when they're experiencing it and what's happening at that moment and what their intuition is telling them. So before we can figure out whether something is a sign for us or not, we have to understand ourselves better, and we have to understand how our lives are trying to talk to us. We each have a unique style of intuition or a unique inner voice, and our job is to learn how it communicates before we can determine what is a sign or a signal and what's not. So once we realize that this is very personal, then the question shifts. It's no longer, was that a sign? It becomes, how does my life specifically show me signs? And that's where things start to open up for you, because now you're not trying to decode the world and the signs in the world. You're learning the language of your own life, the language that your life already uses to try to talk to you. So there's 3 ways to understand this about yourself, and they're very simple. And once you learn how to do them, it's kind of fun because you can put on your own detective hat and find out how your life is talking to you, which is going to make it a lot clearer when a sign does show up. So let's talk about those 3 ways. So the first thing we have to take notice of is how we respond when something catches our attention. So some people might feel an instant tightening or a curiosity or a little lift inside or a sudden sense of recognition, like they've stepped into a moment they've already lived before. But some may feel a sensation in their body, a drop in their stomach or a wave of energy or a strange steadiness or even queasiness. However it shows up, your response is the first clue. Let's say you're scrolling and you're not really paying attention, you're just absently doing it, and suddenly a single sentence in a post hits you so sharply that you have to stop. And you don't know why yet. You just know it landed somewhere deeper than the rest of the noise on that scroll. If you respond to that, then you know that you respond to written words. That's a clue for you. You're like, why am I responding to this particular sentence? And there's more that we need to dig into there, but that's the first thing you want to take away. I responded to that. written words. And then you want to think, well, have I ever responded to that before? Has my life ever talked to me before in written words? And you can apply this to any type of signal or sign. I'm someone who responds to wildlife. If certain unusual wildlife appears that I don't usually see at a certain time, that's usually a signal for me. Other people respond to numbers. Other people have physical reactions to certain things that are happening. You want to start being your own detective and finding out, how do you respond and what do you respond to? Some of us get signals through things we hear. So that could be overheard conversations or music or certain phrases. Some of us notice synchronicities and timing, or even visual symbols that tend to show up again and again. Your life communicates in a completely different language, but it communicates to you in forms that you're already receptive to, even if you've never really thought about that before. The third thing is what your life is already trying to work on with you. There are stretches in our lives where certain themes keep coming up. So maybe right now you're questioning your career, or you're rethinking a certain relationship, or you're feeling pulled toward a new purpose that you haven't followed before, or a new identity that you haven't quite identified yet. Signals or signs tend to cluster around these active areas at certain points in your life, because that's where your life is moving. The movement's already happening underneath, whether you're ready or not. That's what's really cool when you start watching for this, because our lives start moving underneath us before we really are even consciously aware of it. And then we start noticing these disruptions or these uneasy feelings or these little signs coming through, and that's when we start to say, was that a sign? Often it's around these periods of change and transition in our lives when the signals or the signs will show up. So for example, maybe you've been feeling this quiet restlessness that you can't quite figure out, and you know that something needs to change in your life, but you're not sure what. And then, without trying, you find yourself in 3 different conversations about people reinventing themselves. Each one stirs that same unsettled place inside you. It's like having those 3 conversations in a row might strike you as unusual. You might be someone who picks things up through conversations. The more you know about yourself and how your intuitive life speaks to you, the more you can say, you know what, that is a sign. It's time for a reinvention. And that opens the door into what your next step should be. So when we understand these 3 things, how we respond, what we respond to, and what part of our lives is already shifting underneath us, the idea of signs or signals becomes less mysterious. So the moments that catch our attention start forming a pattern that makes sense for who we are and where our lives are trying to guide us. So your investigation of the week. When something catches your attention, and you may be wondering if this is a sign or a signal, hold off a minute before you decide what it means. Just make a note of it, write down what happened, how it hit you, where you were, and what part of your life was already on your mind when it showed up. You're just gathering evidence about how your life tends to nudge you. After a few days of doing this, you'll start to see a pattern. You may start to see that you're seeing signals or signs that are pointing you a certain direction. Or you may start to see that you're gathering information that you didn't know that you needed through these signals or signs. And the more you keep track of each of these things that strike you as signs, even if you're not sure, the more you're going to understand how your life wants to talk to you. It takes some time to figure this out, but it's fun. So I would encourage you to give it a try. If you're in a moment where something keeps tugging at you and you're not sure what to do with it yet, my free signals journal may help you out. It gives you 7 signals that your life is quietly asking you for a change. You can find that for free at the link below. And if you feel like hanging out, check out this next video coming up on the end screen that's going to dive into this whole idea of opening the door to our own intuition just a little bit more. I hope you got some value out of this video. Check that next one out if you like. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.